Uh, Today I'll keep my video off. I hope you don't mind. I'm not well actually. I'm
Oh,
down with migraine since
oh,
yesterday.
must be the heat. No,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
can't help it. You must take a lot of water. It's okay. Nothing about the video. Yes. Okay. All
Okay, so
right.
good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So today is going to be the last lecture of this series, and we shall talk about everything after the session is over.
Hello.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah. It's very low.
Okay.
Yes.
Am I clear now?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Better.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So, without further delay, we will move on to the lecture, and we shall have an interaction after the lecture is over.
Okay. Good afternoon,
Yeah.
everybody. I hope all of you had lunch. And no time for nap actually on these 4 days. Thank you very much for the patience. Anyway, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Please speak.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. Okay. Yeah, all right. So yesterday we were talking about how, the Purloined letter, obviously, and how um, Poe is credited for, pioneering this detective fiction. But then we shall see a slight change in the narrative form compared to other detective fictions that Poe himself had written and that had been written here and there. Okay, through time, we shall make a few comparisons here and there, and we shall see what happens. Now, basically, we shall talk about narratorial technique on one hand. Yes, and we shall also be talking about the plot of knowledge, plot of revenge. All these things would be the crux of my talk today. Now, um, actually, D.A. Miller, he is one of the critics. He says that Victorian narrative, in the Victorian narrative, you should remember that despite the fact that Poe writes from America as an exilist writer, that entire period is actually the Victorian period. So Victorian narrative is a narrative that has a lot of social control. The narrative controls everything within the text. You understand, narrative is the way you uh, narrate a story. Okay, is the way you unravel the poet in very plain terms. It's the way in which the technique works through the narrativity, the narration. So in many ways, in the Victorian times, the narrative had a very strong role. It was almost omniscient. You understand? Omniscient is all-knowing, seeing things from a from a perspective where you can see everything and nobody can actually see you. Now, now in this context, we shall find another word, because today we will be talking about Foucault, Michel Foucault. So Michel, Michel, Foucault, Foucault. All right, you'll have to check who he is. Now, so I shall be, on and off talking about comparison with him, and that would be Foucauldian, okay, like Shakespearean. So he had come up with in his seminal work Discipline and Punish. Foucault talks about the panoptic vision. You understand what is the panoptic vision? In very plain terms, I think the best modern comparison would be a CCTV, right? See, what happened was in earlier uh, the prison house. Okay, the prison house. Now the prison house was so placed, the architecture was like this, that you had all the cells down here, all the prisoners inside it, and you had one person right at the top, or maybe the eyes, okay, or a point right at the top from where you can see everything but nobody can see you. Okay, so here is the seer who is unseen. Is that clear? The seer who is unseen, I have repeated it because we shall be using this phrase again on and off. Now, the seer who is unseen is actually the panoptic visioner. Somebody who can see it from the panoptical point of view. Nobody can see him while he sees all the prisoners down. Now, this panoptic kind of vision was a method, a kind of narrativity that was most adopted in Victorian fiction and particularly detective fiction. All right. Now, when we talk about narrativity, okay, literary narrativity, in a way, there were some critics, some Foucauldian critics again, who say, why I'm mentioning Foucault, because Foucault had actually talked about Poe and Purloined letter. So we need to go back to him. Now, see, some literary uh, critics, Foucauldian critics, they have said that any literary narrative, it polices thought and behavior. You understand what is the meaning of policing thought and behavior? You'll understand. Okay, you just had. I don't mean to bring up controversy, but what I'm trying to say is, maybe 8 months back, 7 months back, you saw the car movement, and very recently you have this lockdown. Right in the beginning, what happened in the lockdown? The police, for whatever good intention, they had to control the public thought and behavior because they thought that they were, you know, they thought it's their ideology. They thought that they were, rescuing the public from a pandemic. Okay, so if you do not wear mask, you are bitten. If you do not maintain distance, you are bitten. These kinds of things. Now, what I'm trying to say is this narrativity, any detective fiction, the narrativity in most cases, okay, also polices the thought and behavior of the text. You get my point? It polices the thought and behavior in the sense there is a kind of intrusive normalizing disciplinary power. The power to discipline lies with the narrative in most of the detective fiction. Okay, I hope this is clear up to this point, because if and only if it is clear, then I can develop this point. Kindly respond. Kindly respond, please, somebody, or maybe just send a chat. The policing part, is it clear? The intrusive normalizing disciplinary power. Just send a chat message. That will also do.
Yes, participants, please respond. Hello, Lulu. Hello. Okay, so we can see a technical problem here. Let's just wait for her to get back. Hello, Lulu?
Yes, yes. Okay.
Okay.
Participants, are you there?
Yeah, they're here and they can hear you.
Okay. All right. So what I was trying to say is just listen to the phrase very carefully. Intrusive normalizing disciplinary power. Just remember this much for now. We shall see what it is. Okay. Now, when this happens, okay, what happens is the narration becomes the police. The narration becomes the all in all, right? The disciplinary power. You know, it is not just disciplining the criminal justice system. All right, it is not just that the criminal justice system is interpreted, okay, but the narrative technique itself becomes an important component of this intrusion. Okay, that is what I'm trying to say is the narrative technique becomes omniscient. It tries to be the one who knows it all and be it all. You understand the meaning of omniscient, all knowing? Yes or no? So, uh, uh, in any usual detective fiction, this is what happens. All right, that the detective fiction becomes the panoptic vision. Okay, but here there is a difference. In Purloined letter, there is no conduction of surveillance. You understand the meaning of surveillance? Surveying, the police surveys. Yes or no? So Dupin does not do that. Even as he is a detective, he does not conduct any form of surveillance. He in fact prevents detection. Okay, he prevents detection and works against the disciplining power of police. Now, what detection does he prevent? Do you have an idea? He does not let the secret of the queen out. He does not let the secret of the contents of the paper out. Okay, he protects it and covers up her crime. Definitely, there was some kind of crime on the part of the queen, which is why she was so apprehensive when the letter was lost. She was scared when the letter was lost, isn't it? So, but then here, uh, Dupin, the detective, he does not play the role of the police. See, what I'm trying to say is, like a couple of days back, we were doing Funny Boy. Now, what happens there in Funny Boy? Remember, there was this affair between this Funny Boy's mother, what's his name? RG's mother, Nalini, and their real uncle. So what happens is when their real uncle dies and Nalini goes to report to the police rather than looking into the crime of what has happened to Daryl, what they do is they try to investigate the relationship between this the extramarital, the exogamy as you call it, the extramarital relationship between RG's mother and Daryl, which was unnecessary. Okay, now Dupin does not do this. He is not trying to uncover the, you know, he's not trying to attack the private premise. He's not trying to break that social surface. Get the point? Why I'm saying this is because in other in other detective novels, what happens? You must definitely have read Sherlock Holmes, or maybe have you read Charles Dickens's Haunted Down? Okay, or maybe there was also another detective fiction writer. He wrote other realist fiction also, Honorary Balzac. Okay, all of these writers, in them, what happens is the police becomes the panoptic surveyor. Okay, and the police or the detective, whoever, and in Balzac particularly, the police agents, they are privy to whatever goes on behind the scenes. Okay, they seem to know everything that is going on behind the scenes, and therefore they are almost like the novelist, because the novelist is the one who creates the story. Yes or no? So this police in the writings of Balzac, detective fiction, they go behind the scenes, they know whatever is happening, and in the consequence they penetrate the social surface. They go to an area where actually it should have been a very private area of the characters concerned. On the other hand, you also have Dickens and Arthur Conan Doyle. Conan Doyle is also famous for his Sherlock Holmes detective stories. So now they were also driven by the urge to, pull off walls and roofs in order to observe and report on private lives, ransack everything, literally pull off walls and roofs, in the sense that in trying to find a clue to something, they actually go about prying the private lives of all of these characters concerned. This is something that Dupin, our detective, does not do. Is that clear? Our detective Dupin does not do this uh, uh, because Poe is not, curious to know what are the Queen's private doings. Her life, whatever the secret the letter held, it was never concealed to us. I mean, it remained concealed to us. It was never revealed to us till the end because it is beyond our purview. Is that clear? In other words, by not telling whatever is there in the text, okay, what is Dupin doing? Or by not letting out everything in the text, Poe as well as Dupin, they are defying the what? Remember those that phrase that I had just said a while back? You know, intrusive, normalizing disciplinary power. They have left the power to the Queen. Okay, they are not taking up all power. Like, see, if you know, even as a please excuse me, but then I had to use this. Uh, Even as a rape victim goes to report to the police, rather than, punishing the perpetrator of crime, rather than punishing the rapist, this girl's entire, background, her character, her, you know, everything would be investigated by the police. In other words, what I'm trying to say is there is a penetration of the private world, but this is what Dupin does not do. Now, um, uh, this prefect, remember the prefect G, yes, who was the policeman, and he was the sergeant policeman, and he was the one who had gone about, initially he was the one who had gone about looking for the letter in this man's chamber, the minister's chamber. Now this policeman is actually like uh, the the Balzacian narrative technique. It means that uh, this policeman is like the omniscient, the all-knowing, the one who at least wishes to know everything, the all-knowing omniscient narrator, the all-knowing omniscient operator. Why I'm saying all-knowing is because, see, he and his team of policemen, they go to the minister's house, and as these lines are written here, uh, I took the entire building room by room, devoting the nights of a whole week to each. We examined first the furniture of each apartment. We opened every possible drawer. And I presume you know that to a properly trained police agent, such a thing as a secret drawer is impossible. They have touched every private thing of this minister. Okay, so of course when he was not there, they have done everything, okay, gone beyond boundaries of this particular minister. Now because the prefect is much like the panoptic viewer, somebody who wishes to be omniscient. Now but the fact is, can we actually, anybody, is it mortal enough, is it humanely possible that we understand, or we can see all possible sides of the episteme? You understand what is episteme? Episteme is the body of knowledge. Okay, because see, see, look at this very telling example, right? You can see me, okay, you can hear me, but I can, of course, none of you can I see you. Of course, definitely for the coordinator Mona Lisa ma'am, and one girl just props in, Supriya Gogoi, sometimes I do not see anything because it's not mortally possible or technically possible for me to be able to see everything. So, you know, pose narrative in that similar way, okay, it refuses uh, to be the omniscient narrator because it is not humanly, this is realistic, yes or no, it's not humanly possible to be able to seeing the other side of the episteme, the other side of knowledge. Actually, this I have taken from the Order of Things, this particular line by Michel Foucault. Sometimes please read the text, wonderful one. uh, Now what the Dupin does is, uh, or for that matter, um, what this particular Monsieur G, the prefect, what was he trying to do? He was trying to be omniscient. He was trying to, you know, interpret in terms of the resemblances. Okay, resemblances. One thing that he says is, and that is where he goes wrong. Okay, this policeman sergeant, he says that this particular minister is a poet. Okay, and therefore he is bound to be foolish. Now this is an assumption that only a police, uh, that only this kind of a person can say. Not all policemen will say that, of course, but what I'm trying to say is because of this, false assumption that a poet cannot think, that a poet is foolish. It is because of this reason that the policeman himself is duped. Okay, duped both by the Dupin as well as the detective, right? Because this I'm sorry, duped both by Dupin as well as the minister, because this minister, shrewd and cunning as he is, he understood the limitations of the trained policeman, and you are trained only in a particular way. So he was trying to the minister understood the limitation, and as a poet, the minister had one thing which the policeman did not have. Can you say what? Imagination. Okay, so he could foresee what the policeman would do. Similarly, if you have noted one line, the detective Dupin also says that he had also written some poems. Okay, and very humbly says that these are nonsensical poems. But then what I'm trying to say is both the uh, detective Dupin as well as the minister D, both of them, they had the poetic imagination, and therefore both of them could, you know, understand and see much more than the limited policeman. Okay, G. So as far as the limitations of this policeman were concerned, he was only looking for resemblances in the sense of similar things. Okay, similar things in the sense the queen had probably told him that the envelope had the signatory of the king's house and that there were names written in bold. So he was looking for these things. But the minister as well as the detective knew that the police would look only for this resembling thing because that is his limitation. And as having a poetic temperament, both of them, they had outdone the policeman. Okay. Now what happens is the letter, what does it do to the minister? The letter, can you imagine, or can you think of what does the letter do to the minister? Now the letter actually transforms the minister without the minister's knowledge, okay, unknowingly transforms the minister into the image of the queen. You get my point? When the queen held the letter, of course, She was powerful, but then she was also vulnerable. Vulnerable, you understand? Somebody who could be, you know, somebody who is in a position of becoming victim at any point of time. All right. So this letter had transformed the detective, I'm sorry, the minister from the position of being the minister to being whatever or whoever he is, to somebody as vulnerable as the queen the moment he had the letter. Now earlier, uh, who was there in the panoptic vision mode earlier when the letter was not stolen? It was the minister who was actually, you know, on the lookout for the queen. The minister was observing the queen, and the queen did not know. She did not know that she was being seen, SWN, seen. All right. Now, what happens the moment the minister has the letter? The minister does not know that now he is being seen by the detective. So there is a, you know, trade of displacements, and this displacement of the letter carries with it the displacement of power. Okay, initially the minister, up to the extent that he had the letter, or he thought that nobody can find my letter, up to that point he was uh, powerful. Yes, but now he did not see something, that he was also being seen. So it is, you know, he was being seen by somebody unseen. So it is in the uh, unseen that the power lies. Okay, and this is from Jeremy Bentham. To see without being seen becomes the measure of power. You know Jeremy Bentham, I think, in 18th century philosopher. He's noted for pioneering this utilitarianism in economics. So to see without being seen becomes the measure of power. When you know that you are somebody who can see everything, but that you are not being seen, that you are the unseen, that is the measure of power. And that is why we, in fact, respect God or are scared of ghosts, because they had never made their appearance to us. They are always unseen and therefore powerful. You get my point? So in this particular trajectory, when the queen has been robbed and the minister has been and the minister has the letter, it is ultimately the detective who has the power of the unseen, because he was, you know, very carefully, very promptly, and very maliciously actually watching the detective. Now, from this, please respond, somebody, just anybody. Supriya, Achal, Davini, some names. Kindly respond. I just need to feel human. Please respond. Yes. Now can you
Yeah,
hear me?
yes. Now we can hear you.
Okay. Uh, any idea where I lost contact with you? The last thing that I said? Just tell me. I didn't even realize that I was not being heard by you. So what was the last thing that you heard from me? Just say somebody about whom or what. Hello. Damini Das is here. Kindly respond.
Yes, participants, from which point we
Because
lost contact with her? Yes.
I didn't realize when did we stop. I mean, ma'am, you were discussing about the measures of yes. Okay. So Jeremy Bentham, that part you heard, I guess. Okay. I understood. So now we go over to the to something else. The plot of knowledge. It's not that in all the plots, in all the stories, you're only looking for knowledge. What happens in this particular detective fiction? Do you actually have to unravel or unweb a story? Do you actually have clues given here and there and then pick them up like Sherlock Holmes or maybe any modern detective who would if something supposing something has been stolen in your house and then you have the police or the detective coming and looking with a microscope and looking for fingerprints. This is a what is it when you go looking for fingerprints and these kinds of things? What do you call it? Just one second. I had the okay. So you know, just one second. All right. See, when you go looking for clues and proofs, you are trying to have a lot of confidence in the single-minded possibility of being able to find a stolen thing or anything through proofs. Okay, it's like believing in the fact that through proofs you can ultimately find your destination. It's almost like a treasure hunt. Clues are here and clues are there, and then suddenly you find your whatever you're looking for. But is this particular text like that? It's not like that, because whatever you're looking for, the thief is already there. Okay, now what is then the difference between any detective fiction and this particular purloined letter? Uh, this is a narrative purloined letter which actually does not advance. You understand advance? The story does not go forward. It does not advance. Okay, it's a narrative of zero transformation. Now the question is it necessary that all detective stories must end in knowledge? Okay, now what I'm trying to say is, uh, what Poe says is, Poe is against a very spurious kind of mystery. Spurious, what is the meaning of spurious? Spurious. Spurious is something that is actually false, but then made to look as true. Now, see, Poe says that I will not uh, give clues and ultimately try to find the solution, because that would look very, very fake. Why? Because, see, because that would mean that the mystery has all. It's like a doubling up. It's like a repetition. It is like the author has created the mystery for mystery's sake. Supposing I'm the author and I'm writing a detective fiction and I'm trying to give clues here and there and there and here. But the point is that I already know the answer. So this is so spurious. This is so hypocritical. This is so fake, basically. So it would be an act of repetition, okay, on the part of the author, that you already know the truth. Then why are you laying out this plan for the reader to uncover? Okay, so for Poe, this is this kind of a detective fiction, Purloined Letter particularly, is not the unraveling of a web. Okay, supposing you knit a sweater and then you unravel it, unweb it, literally. So what is the point in doing that? So Poe says, okay, he has written a letter in 1846 to Philip Pendleton Cook. Now, where he asks, where is the ingenuity of unraveling a web which you yourself, that is the author, have woven for the express purpose of unraveling? You know, unraveling for unraveling's sake. Okay, just for the sake of doing it, you already know, the author already knows the truth to the mystery. So, why should you do it again? Therefore, in this particular text, Purloined Letter, you do not have this, clue finding business. Okay, the clues are already there. The thing is there. The thief is there. All you need to do is find the letter. Okay. Now, Dupin, I'm sorry, this policemen, they were, they had this single-minded confidence on being able to trace true clue, but then they lost. Okay, so in other words, what Poe was trying to say, you just do not create mystery just for the sake of mystery. Sometimes, uh, what should I say, can't think of examples. Sometimes you ignore certain people so that you want to gain their attention. Now, this is something very, very superfluous. So very, very superficial. Okay, we try to ignore their calls or ignore their texts just to gain their attention so that the other person becomes apprehensive and thinks what has happened to this person, and then they keep calling or keep texting. So this is something, this is your kind of mind game. Yes or no? Mind game is the shallow word here, but it's so hypocritical, it's so fake. So Poe says that just for the sake of creating a mystery, I would not do so, because there is no ingenuity in it. Ingenuity. Okay, there is no intelligence or wit or smartness in uh, giving a plot which is already unraveled by the author. Uh, Therefore, he says that he was actually opposing knowledge in the plot. Okay, in any detective fiction, you are expected to find knowledge at the end. You know, at the end, you go and find that the everything, all the ends meet, that this happened because of this, or this one somebody had killed this, and therefore finally knowledge is attained at the end. In Purloined Letter, knowledge is attained right in the beginning. Okay, the minister is the thief, the letter is with him. So what he's trying to say is that, in other words, it is not necessary that all stories or all plots should lead to some kind of knowledge. Okay, and in saying this, he becomes again like Foucault. Now, what did Foucault say? Foucault, in his own theory of history, he says that history must sometimes also be free from its metaphysical and anthropological model. Because what happens is, when you sometimes over depend upon history, we make the fallibility, we make the mistake of believing that all history is a bank of knowledge. You get my point? When you turn, the history book, or the, the entire, whatever history is available to you in book or oral tradition or whatever, in whatever way, if you try to make it metaphysical, try to make a metaphysical in a sense, very plainest terms, you make a god out of a man. Okay, just because something is historical, that doesn't mean that they are godly. Okay, or maybe if you try to convert it into an anthropological model, that these things happen because of man's action. All right, we are so man centric, we absolutely forget about nature, but the nature can destroy us as and when it wants. but then we always claim to be superior and the most intelligent creature. Now, what happens is, what I'm trying to say is, uh, when we oftentimes depend upon history to be giving us knowledge, we commit fallacy, we commit mistake. In a similar way, any story, any detective fiction for this matter, or any plot does not serve the only purpose of giving us knowledge. Okay, the plot of knowledge. Therefore, writers like Poe would say that, you know, they would rather sacrifice the will to knowledge. It's not that you should always gain knowledge out of a story. Am I being clear? Therefore, what happens in Purloined Letter? In Purloined Letter, is the narrative the panoptic, omniscient, seer? In Purloined Letter, is the narrative the panoptic, omniscient seer? You have to answer this. Only then I'll understand whether you're understanding or not. You get my question? In the narrative, hello, please speak. Have you slept? I understand it's warm and see, I'm feeling very lonely. Send me a message or something.
Yes, participants, please. Please
Hello,
answer. Yes, participants, are you all there? Or it's just Lulu ma'am and I?
have you gone to sleep by chance?
Oh my God.
Ponita, Kurmi, Nishta, Sharma, Rujuta, Rutuja, Damini. Can you please repeat the question? Achal, yes, ma'am. Okay, that's nice. That's at least heartening. Okay, I'll repeat the question 100 times provided you are here. Okay. Mm, I forgot my question. I forgot my question. Anyway.
Is the narrative
Okay.
the panoptic seer?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Now, in this particular text, okay, Purloined Letter, do you think the panoptic is, I'm sorry, do you think that the narrator is the ultimate omniscient, unseen seer? Do you think, do you suppose? Can the narrative actually see into everything here, specifically in Purloined Letter? Does it see everything? Kashyapi Borgohain, you're writing something?
She
No,
says
ma'am.
no,
Okay.
ma'am. Okay.
No, ma'am. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. So here you have, um, Poe, he is subverting the original claims to omniscience. He is subverting the narration altogether. Now, therefore, Purloined Letter, the narrative of Purloined Letter does not do the policing of other detective fiction. Policing in the sense of pretending to know everything. Policing in the sense of surveillance. Policing in the sense of, having the authority to go and poke into the privacy of some other person. Here, privacy is not been uh, uh, crossed. Okay, so this particular narrative does not reinforce normalcy. You know, what does the policeman do? Ultimately, the policeman disciplines and punishes, and his intention is to reinforce normalcy. By the way, discipline and punish is again another Foucauldian text. You can read it whenever you have a lot of time now, right? But of course, I don't know if the text is available. So therefore, the narrative is not playing the role of the police, and therefore the narrative does not reinforce normalcy. It cannot bring any normalcy. As I had told you, the narrative does not advance. There is zero transformation. Okay. So Dupin, neither Dupin nor the story, okay, they are not trying to discipline and punish anybody, not even the queen's crime. Okay. There is, they are not acting like the judges, nor are they acting like the, uh, what should I say, uh, like somebody who has all authority over crime. So the queen's crime remains a secret and she is not punished for anything. Even the punishment that was given to the minister uh, is not for stealing the letter. Do you know that? The punishment that was given to the minister was not for stealing the letter, but for some, unnamed personal insult to Dupin. Dupin had mentioned that in Vienna, Vienna is another Italian place. So in Vienna, this minister had wronged the Dupin. And the Dupin had, at that point of time, good humoredly said that I will definitely take revenge. And his revenge is complete by this action in that he, you know, um, just 1 second. This his revenge, his personal revenge becomes complete because now he has, by taking away the letter, he has taken away the power as well as the political gains that the minister might have had he retained the letter. Okay, this minister, there is mention that this minister would have had a lot of political gains if the letter remained with him. Now, what happens is, from this detective fiction mode, from the plot of epistemic closure, you understand episteme, as I had said, it's in very plain terms, epistemology. Of course, when you learn it later, you'll understand how complex it is, but in very plain terms, epistemic is a body of knowledge. So Poe, from a plot of epistemic closure, Poe moves from a plot of epistemic closure. What I'm trying to say is closure, the end does not give us any knowledge. From this kind of a plot, he moves to an ancient plot form that ends not with knowledge, but with repetition. Repetition in the sense, the minister had duped the queen, okay? Or maybe the queen had duped the king. Dupe, you understand? Cheating. All right. The queen had cheated the king. The minister had duped or cheated the queen. And finally, the detective had duped the minister. So one and one and one. And, it's an act of repetition of duping, D-U-P-I-N-G. Look at the resonance in the name. The name of the detective is Dupin, D-U-P-I-N. And what is he doing is duping. Ultimately, he is the winner. So from this plot of epistemic closure, you actually move to the plot of revenge. Please look at this very carefully. Poe never mentions that. Poe does not want to say, okay, Poe, he demonstrates that Dupin is not impartial. What I'm trying to say is Dupin is extremely partial. Now, in what Lacan calls an explosion of feeling, explosion of feeling, when you have a lot of suppressed anger or suppressed any form of feeling suppressed within you, there is a point of time when your feelings explode. Now, this man, the Dupin, the detective, had been wronged by the evil minister earlier, and therefore the Dupin has this explosion of feeling. Okay, what does he reveal? He reveals the rancor. You know, rancor is a lot of angry frustration. Okay, the rancor stemming from an evil turn done him at Vienna. So this Dupin has finally sought his revenge. Okay, it was not in the queen's gaining of the letter that the detective was interested, but it was in this very personal revenge against the minister that he was interested. And therefore there was a repetition and reversal of this evil turn. Revenge coming back, falling back upon itself. Therefore, what was expected? We expected a plot of knowledge. Probably as you read the story, we expect that the story reveals whatever is there in the letter, but nothing of that sort happens. So what happens is from the plot of knowledge, it moves into a plot of revenge. Is that clear? So finally, and how do you realize that this is revenge? Because in the last lines, okay, in the final lines, in the last lines of the text, you have these letters, a quotation taken from Crebillon's Atri. Crebillon was an 18th century French dramatist who had written the Greek legend of Atri. Now, who is this Atri and Thyeste? Atri and Thyeste. Thyeste, what he does is Thyeste murders his stepbrother. Now, and he also later wrongs his own brother Atreus. Now, Atreus takes revenge on Thyeste. And you know what Atreus does? To take revenge on Thyeste, Atreus invites his brother Thyeste for dinner. And what he serves is Thyeste's own sons as meat. So this is, a complete cycle of revenge. Have you understood this Greek legend and how it plays into the context of the Purloined letter? So now, and why do we mention this? Because these are the words that he writes in the replaced letter that he had left in the minister's table. In that table, he had, put back a facsimile, a look-alike of the old letter, and there he has written this words. So baneful a plot is not worthy of Atri, it is worthy of Thyeste. Okay, he's trying to say that taken, you had done me wrong earlier, and I have sought my revenge. Okay. Uh, Therefore, this particular story, Dupin's repetitive story, repetitive pattern of revenge, is not investigative and narrative. Do you think that this particular detective fiction is an investigative kind of journalistic kind of detective fiction? Has anything been investigated there? You understand the meaning of investigation, yes? When somebody is suspected, it is taken by the police, and then, or maybe suspected things or clues are looked around, sought around. But then this Purloined letter, the text does not have any kind of investigative or narrative repetition, but there is the actual repetition of evil, and it becomes a revenge story, which does not mean that it is not a detective fiction. It is a detective fiction, but then there is this very telling difference. Therefore, whoever holds the letter is in position to do an evil turn. All right. Now, whoever holds the letter is in position C. Now, look at the way how things travel from one to the other. The queen had the letter. She was vulnerable. She was powerful, but ironically, she was also the victim. She was being seen by the unseen minister. The minister had the letter. He gains power, but then he also becomes vulnerable because now he is been uh, watched by somebody unseen, the detective. When the detective gets the letter, he gives it to the prefect, the policeman. So the queen becomes powerful again, but the detective becomes vulnerable because we know that this minister is very, very devilish. Okay, and the text does not give us any clue to the fact that the detective was, guarded. There is no clue that the detective was protected against the minister, and this minister could, at any point of time again do harm to the detective. So this kind of a repetitive cycle goes on. So we do not get the epistemic catharsis. Catharsis is, you haven't done third semester, you haven't done very subtle, definitely, by till now. So in very plain terms, it is a venting out of emotions. So epistemic catharsis, in the sense that a catharsis of knowledge. The plot does not give us any knowledge at the end. All right. So this particular plot again is a challenge to the theory that relies on detective stories. This is a detective story. You cannot deny the fact that the Purloined letter is a detective story. It is a detective story, but then it again challenges this theory that you usually associate a detective story with. You get my point? Is this last point clear? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. All right. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I think there is somebody unseen behind me who is playing this panoptic game of, muting me on and off. Okay. All right. Um, so we come to this kind of an end. There was just one thing that I wanted to say. I think I had skipped that, just one line maybe. Um, now, now, any discourse, any text that thinks itself to be true, if I claim that whatever I'm saying is true, what have I to be? It requires certain prescriptive demands. It requires certain norms. Okay, when you claim to be true, you have to be representational, you have to be coherent, you have to be continuous. You have to be, in other words, logical, continuous, coherent. All right, but then uh, what Poe was trying to do is, his kind of detective story was actually non-descriptive. It was non-representative. It was incoherent. If you read the text, things would be left here and there, and there's a sense of discontinuity. You're not satisfied with anything. Okay, you are marveled with the work, but you are not satisfied with the information. It is all uh, unfulfilled, half information, you can say, and therefore it leaves in you with a sense of um, you know more, asking for more, with a sense of uh, you know uh, longing for more, yearning for more. Okay, the end is also like that. So in other words, this claim to truth that other fiction, other narrativity does, is what is not there in Poe, and this is what makes Poe exceptionally postmodern, because discontinuity or non-dialectical, non-descriptive, incoherent, these are some things which are actually true to life. They are actually true to life, and that is how you define life. So I think this much of it. One thing that this particular detective, he understands and knows about the minister is uh, that this minister was an exceptionally organized man, and to have a very soiled, kind of folded, kind of dirty, crumpled letter on his table was something out of the ordinary. And based on this conclusion, deduction, the detective ultimately discovered the letter. In other words, this detective, uh, because Poe is again all about psychology, this detective actually tried to, you know, identify the opponent's intellect. You have to measure the intellect of your opponent. Otherwise, you'll not be able to understand what is going on in his mind. Is that clear? All of you?
Yes, participants, please interact with ma'am.
Please ask me questions.
Anything. Participants, please interact. Any question, comment, anything. Today is the last day of this lecture series, so please feel free.
It's a detective who had, I'm sorry, it's the minister who had stolen the letter, Achal Sharma. Okay, it's a minister who had stolen the letter, and he had kept in that, the beauty of the text is that everything is known. There is no unravel. Yes, Damini, just 1 second. Okay, I'll address your answer. Achal has this answer, a question. The beauty of the text is that there is no unraveling needed. Okay, there is no necessity for clue finding. The answer is already there. The minister has stolen it because the queen has seen it done right under her nose. Okay, Achal Sharma, is that clear? But then what was necessary now was the procurement of the letter. How can you find the letter? The letter is with the minister. Everybody knows that. How can you find the letter without catching him red-handed? Because this minister was extremely a very powerful political figure. Okay. Is that clear, Achal? Hello? Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay, yes, okay. Damini, science and art brought into the story. Science and art in what sense? Science in the sense of, of course, science is empirical, right? So you when yes, because the detective and in fact Poe himself, he was a mathematician. He had done some bit of study on mathematics in Virginia, and he was a dropout. Okay, he dropped out because of his personal strife with his father, the father who had adopted him. Now, see, science and art, now only we have this specialization. If you think about Aristotle was a mathematician. He was a he was a literary critic. He was a political thinker. He was a philosopher. Aristotle was everything, or for that matter any wise person at that point of time was everything. Science and art, obviously art, if you strictly divide it now as humanities, art in the sense that both the minister and the detective were extremely imaginative. Okay, imaginative. They did not, and this man, this sergeant, police sergeant, he was neither a scientist nor an art student. Okay, neither a science student because what I'm trying to say, I'm not talking about his degree, but I'm talking about his psychology, his intellectual makeup. He was trained to look into things, and he could not, cannot uh, dare or think, or even have the intellect to cross the boundary of his training. As he was trained in the police service, how to look for a particular kind of stolen material, that was exactly how he had, executed. He was very assiduous. Assiduous, you understand? Very hardworking. He was very assiduous, but then he was inept. He was not efficient, and therefore he failed. Only hard work doesn't is not fruitful. You need brains also. So, of course, art in the sense of extreme imagination, art in the sense of the crafting, okay, the crafting of the crime. How this man, the minister, how he presupposes many things. He knew that the queen will not shout. He knew that he can do it right his under her nose. He knew that the sergeant police will only search in a particular trained pattern. What he did not know, that he was also being seen now. Okay, the detective finally becomes the unseen from behind, and this detective again out imagines him, and therefore, you know, finds the mystery, finds the stolen letter. So science, mathematics in the sense of logical deduction, ratiocination, as I had told you, post detective fictions, the last, in the last ages of his life, they were tales of ratiocination. From a thread of deduction and induction, you calculate this and calculate that, and then you kind of finally come to some kind of a conclusion. Could I answer? Please tell me. Okay. My pleasure. Aniket Arora. Okay. Have you typed your question? Let's see. Yes. Thank you for asking me this. I will have to look into this, and Aniket, because I know you, I might send an answer to this personally. Okay. So it was not to, it had nothing to do with the tradition of that time. Here he is using this cryptic term because it might relate to certain noble personages, certain political personages. See, even now, okay, even now in the very contemporary context, we rename certain politicians. Don't we do that? I don't want to cite examples now, but don't we do that? Supposing a politician we do not like, we you know uh, you know we choose a name that is near him, which is again not his name, but then somebody, anybody who hears it, anybody in within our interpretive community will understand that we are talking about that particular politician. So D dash, for example, or G dash, for example, he does not wish to reveal the identity, but it could be that this is a very social critique, right? And therefore he doesn't reveal the name and yet leaves it cryptic. Clear? Spurious part. All right. Okay, spurious. I think I used the word in terms of the mystery that contains its own solution. Any detective fiction. You understand the meaning of spurious, right? Spurious is something that is actually fake, but then tries to be true. For example, any product, okay, which is not the original. Sometimes these online sellers, they do not sell, they tell you that this is an amethyst or an emerald, but then they just sell maybe a piece of plastic or piece of glass. So what I'm trying, that is the meaning of spurious. So what Poe finds is that, you know, he, in any typical detective fiction, you must definitely have read Sherlock Holmes in your childhood. So in any typical detective fiction, the truth comes out at the end. Yes or no? The truth is revealed at the end. That is a plot of knowledge. But here, the truth is right there from the beginning. Okay, it's there right from the beginning. And Poe does this deliberately because according to him, as a writer, what are you doing? If you are, leaving the plot till the end, or leaving the clue, or leaving the mystery till the end, you are already a writer and you are writing that you already know the answer to that mystery, and you are just creating a mystery for mystery's sake. You get my point? You're just creating it just to, give it the name of a secret, or give it the name of an unraveled mystery. So where is the ingenuity in it? Where is the intelligence in it? There is no intelligence in, you. It's like you bichao your own jal, and then you uh, unweb the mystery. You already know the answer. Even as the author, you already know the answer. So where is the sharpness or brightness or intelligence in that? So here in this detective fiction, Purloined Letter, he gives us the answer and he tells us that this is the answer, that this is the thief. There is no question of suspense. It doesn't build up to a suspense. Okay, here is the thief. So in a way, it almost becomes very, very realistic because it's there, right there. Here is the thief. The answer is there, and yes, Priyanka Paul has left, I suppose. So I think she understood whatever she asked. Okay. It is possible that he might have been referring to real people. It is very possible. But then again, writing in 1840, 44, 45, that becomes history to us. We cannot possibly or physically, you know, uh, prove that whatever he was saying was actually about real people, because there is no, you know about the mystery of Poe's life. He died very mysteriously, and then his letters were actually, all his works were, his close friend had brought disfame to his name after his death, such that, he becomes popular in the sense that, somebody doesn't know you. In order to make you sensational, I say bad things about you. Once I start saying bad things about you, people take interest in you because people take interest in gossip. Okay, common human nature. As a consequence, people started taking interest in Poe's works, and therefore, Poe's works were sold and published, and he became very popular. So his life itself is mysterious. So we cannot be sure about whether he was talking about. Definitely, he must have been talking about real people. Must have been.
Yes, anybody else?
Not today. Everybody is asleep, I guess. But today I have the energy of my life. I took an ice cream before the talk.
Wow.
Okay, it's okay.
So, shall we end this session?
Yes, of course. With your permission.
With your permission, of course. You are the speaker.
No. But Mona Lisa, also to your personal students, ask them if they understood me.
Mhm.
Thank you for being here so patiently, all of you. Thank you for organizing. And Mona Lisa ma'am, particularly, I should thank your ma'am because she has pushed me to an, uh, you know, you know, to an uncomfortable zone. Uncomfortable in the sense I never made any foray to Indian literature. So
Don't say
it's not Indian.
uncomfortable, say uncharted.
Okay, Uncharted.
Uncharted, yeah.
All right, Uncharted. Thank you so much. But once I started reading Funny Boy, I understood the Sri Lankan Sinhalese context even better. And now I think I'll be doing a lot of more work on Salvadorai. I mean, I'm thinking, I don't know. We think so many things.
Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule
It's okay.
and speaking to us in this lecture series. And I'm sure, I mean, your lectures have been so enlightening and insightful, and it's going to contribute a lot to the students. I'm sure about it. And thank you, students, as well, for being a part of this series. I mean, it has been such a positive, um, thing to do. I mean, and I feel the positive energy in me as well after conducting this series, after interacting with you all. Amidst all this negativity around, this is one positive. I find it very much positive. I mean, and it's been great actually. And today being the last day of this series, and we hope to conduct more such sessions in the future. And for the students, we are meeting again on Sunday, 7 p.m., of course, with a different topic, not academic related to academics, but life in general. So we shall be back again with that session on Sunday. And in future, yes, again, Lulu ma'am, Dr. Lulu, Mariam Borgohain, we hope to see you soon amidst us again in the future. And
This time
from,
physically. This time not
yes,
online, but physically.
yeah, yeah, hopefully.
Thank you so much, of
And
course.
from the entire Department of English, I extend, on behalf of the Department of English, I
That's an
extend a
honor. That's an
heartfelt
honor.
gratitude to you
It's a
for
lot
your
for me.
support to this lecture series. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you very much for the exposure. I had the opportunity to meet so many students. Actually, some messages have been popping up all these days from the YouTube connection also, link also. I had sent certain people. So
Mhm.
thank you very much for the opportunity. I never thought I'll be able to speak to so many people all together, and of course from different
It's good
regions of the.
actually, and I think these types of platforms, it should continue, because otherwise, when we have the physical classes, we don't get the opportunity to for these kinds of
Yes,
interactions.
yes, yes,
So I think this is one positive thing about the online, this
yes,
kind
yeah.
of.
Thank you so much. And please take care of your migraine. Drink a lot of
Yeah,
water.
yeah, I will. I will. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you, and
students.
bye bye. Bye bye, all of
Bye
you.
bye. See you.